Let me introduce myself. I am Dr. A. Krishnan, working as Associate Professor and heading the Department of Economics in Periyar Government Arts and Science College, Tiruchirappalli in Tamil Nadu. Really, it's a pleasure for me to meet you all in this virtual platform. And the recent days, it's better to introduce the concepts or instill the deep understanding of the concepts, especially in microeconomics and macroeconomics, has become more important for analyzing theories, both in micro and macroeconomics, being the basic subjects in microeconomics. So it's better to instill in the minds of the students a deep understanding of the microeconomic concepts. So I propose to introduce or discuss with a simple concept called utility. And many people today, whether they belong to economics or a common people, what they thought, the utility and the satisfaction are same way, it connotes the same meaning, and they use interchangeably. But actually, utility is something different from a satisfaction. And if you go through the textbook, you can find, according to J. Vance, utility refers to wants satisfying power of the commodity. Actually, every commodity has the capacity, the potential to satisfy the human wants. Only if it possesses the capacity or potential to satisfy the human wants, it will be valued, otherwise it will not be valued or demanded, and it will have no value in its existence, either economic value or any other value. Why, say for example, a pencil can satisfy the human wants to write on the paper. A pen has value, has utility because it has the capacity to satisfy the human wants to write on the paper. We can go on explaining all these things. Say for example, apple. It can satisfy the human being a desire to eat the fruits. So, every commodity is supposed to possess certain power to satisfy the human needs, human desire. Unless otherwise it possesses such power or potential, it could not be considered or valuable in the society. How say for example, when you walk on the road, you find some gold coins or you find some gold ornaments. Immediately people pick it up. The people, if it is very judicious people, they will find whose possession this or whose property is, and they will search for the people, search for the owner to hand over it. Or otherwise, if could not find out the owner of it, they will possess it or hand over it to the authorities. Why it happens? Because it carries some value. Why it carries some value? Because it has the potential or it has the power to satisfy the human needs of wearing the ornaments, gold ornaments. Because it has economic value, because it has the value of exchange, etc. The same example, when you walk on the road, if you find some stone on your path, what will you do? Simply you will remove the stone and throw it on the either side of the road. What happens? Why it happens? Why the people do like that? Because it is an obstruction. For them it is considered as an obstruction, not a commodity which has some potential to satisfy the human wants. So only when the commodity has potential or power to satisfy the human wants, it is valued. Such power of the commodity is called utility. Here utility and satisfaction are different. It has got a number of differences. When we say utility is expected satisfaction. When you consume or use, you expect the article to satisfy the need or desire of the human being. Whereas satisfaction is utility realized or acquired utility. So for example, an apple is there. If you want to consume an apple, it could satisfy your desire. If you consume it, it will satisfy your desire. So it has got utility, the power. But once you consume the apple, you get the power of the commodity by consumption. It makes you satisfied. It fulfills your desire. So that power of commodity, that utility is acquired by the consumer. That's why we call it satisfaction always utility realized or utility acquired by the consumer. Where in utility, when you say it guides to demand for commodity. As I said earlier, people will demand, people will create demand only for those commodities which has utility, or only those commodity which the people believe that it could satisfy their demands or needs or desire, whatsoever it is. Unless otherwise the people believe, okay, this apple, this banana, or this tomato, or this rice, or whatever the article, only the people believe that it will satisfy their need, it will satisfy their desire, it will satisfy their requirement, only then they will create demand. So, utility as a power of the commodity may guide the consumer to demand the commodity. So, it is a mere guide to demand for a commodity, whereas when satisfaction, when we say satisfaction, it guides to choose or not in the future. It helps a consumer whether to prefer the commodity or not for the future consumption. Once a consumer consumes a commodity, he expects it has to satisfy desire, but if his expectation is fulfilled, he will choose it in future, otherwise he will not prefer it in future. So for the future preference, satisfaction would be a guidance. Whereas utility can be measured in terms of price. In terms of price. If not exactly also, it can be measured in terms of price that we offer for a commodity purchase. Whereas satisfaction cannot be measured. It cannot be measured. Why? Because people are with different emotions, different psychology, a different attitude, different level of expectations, different taste and preferences. So, the same commodity, when same commodity is being consumed by different people, the level of satisfaction for different people are different. They never get equal satisfaction all the time, because every consumer is different from other consumer, because it depends on their mental attitude, wherein the utility depends only on desire. If a person has a desire for fruits, immediately they will create demand for fruits. They will prefer to buy the fruits. If there is no desire, they will not create demand. So, utility, it depends only on desire, whereas satisfaction depends on mental attitude of every consumer. Okay, we know very well utility is the power of the commodity to satisfy the human wants, but it has got different types, different forms. How can we classify it? We may call it as form utility, we may call it as place utility, we may call it as time utility. What is form utility? See, we are producing food items, we are producing not food items, we are producing very many industrial used products, inputs, etc., etc. But all these products does not be, we are not producing it as a final product at one point of time. It gets changed in its form. Say for example, every product is being produced in different forms. Whereas, say for example, chapati. Chapati is a form of a commodity, wherein before preparing chapati, it was only a flour, wheat flour. That's all. So, we can change the form of the product. When we change the form of the product from one form to the other form, its utility also gets changed. When the flour is in the form, when it is in the form of flour, wheat flour, its utility is different. When it is changed into the form of chapati, its utility is something different, it gets enhanced. So, when we create different articles, different commodities in different forms, the utility also keeps changing. Then what is place utility? When we say place utility, a same commodity, the same commodity has got different level of utility at different places. Here scarcity also prevails. Say for example, we transport water to the mountains, top of the mountains. People when trekking, When you go for trekking, they need water. But pet water is not available in the mountains. There is no shop in the mountains. But they are in dire need of bottle, pet water. But water bottle is not available. So they prefer to pay if water bottle is available at the top of the mountain when there is no shop, when there is no vendor. If they are given with a bottle of water, they prefer to pay any amount. Their willingness to pay is increased because the place has got more scarcity for water. This is what we call place utility. When one product is transported from one place to another place, the utility is created. Place utility is created. The pet water, say for example, pet water, as I told you, the pet water, the utility of the pet water in the plain where there are number of shops, where there are number of vendors is different. When it is transported to a hilltop, a mountain where there are no number of shops, there are no number of vendors, where there is a scarcity of pet water, bottled water, here the utility is created for the water, which means the utility is increasing. Because the place a different place makes the different utility. Then time utility. When goods are stored for future use, time utility is created. How? See, if you go out during the daytime for a tea shop, you may find number of tea shop, innumerable number of tea shop. You can choose any tea shop which you like or which you prefer. They are providing you good tea. Wherein during the midnight, if you go to the roadside, you want to have a cup of coffee, a cup of tea. Certainly it won't be available because during the night hours, odd hours, the shops would be closed. Suppose a vendor is there providing you a tea at the midnight when you decide to have tea at the time. Certainly the tea that is provided by the vendor on the odd hours has some time value, it creates some time utility. That utility is much more than the tea which is usually available in the daytime or in the usual time. So, time, place and form that creates differences in utility. Okay, how to measure the utility? There is a question arises, okay sir, the power of satisfying power of the commodity is the utility, okay. What satisfying power of the commodity is the utility. But can we measure it? When that question arises, it is answered by economists in two approaches. It is being analyzed in two approaches. One is cardinal approach, another one is ordinal approach. Under cardinal approach, they say utility can be measured in terms of numbers. We can quantify the utility. We can say for example, the apple gives us 20 utiles. The consumption of orange gives us 5 utiles. The consumption of banana gives 2 utiles. So the utility is being measured in terms of numbers and also it is being told as utiles. 10 utiles, 15 utiles, 13 utiles like that. Say for example, a person consumes 3 apples subsequently. The first apple gives him 40 utiles. Second apple gives him 30 utiles. Third apple gives him 20 utiles. Then we can say he received the total utility 40 plus 30 plus 20. 90 utilities he has received like that. So we can exactly quantify the utility in terms of numbers. That's what the cardinal approach reveals. Whereas ordinal approach is something different. According to ordinal approach, the utility cannot be measured or quantified exactly in terms of numbers or price. We can compare the utility, that's all. We can compare the utility from person to person, from place to place, from time to time. As I told you earlier, the time utility, place utility, form utility, I told you. The utility changes. Likewise, ordinal approach has a strong faith that we can order the utility. The first apple gives more utility. The second apple gives less utility, the third apple gives lesser utility. Likewise, we can compare the utility among the consumption of the commodity. Rather, we cannot measure exactly as it was believed by, as it was measured by ordinal approach. That's what ordinal approach. So what does ordinal approach do? Under ordinal approach, they compare the utility. See, usually a human being do not consume a single product. Single product. As a cardinal approach measures the quantity of utility, while consumer consumes a single product continuously. Whereas in reality, consumer consumes more than a commodity. May consume 2 commodity, may consume more than 2 commodities, 3 commodities likewise. So in such cases, how can we measure the utility under ordinal approach? The ordinal approach measures utility in terms of comparison. The order of preferences, choices can be listed under ordinal approach. A consumer can prefer their choice. They list their preference. 1, 2, like that. So they can rank their consumption in terms of satisfaction. So it cannot be measured in terms of simply numbers, as explained by the ordinal approach. As I told you, total utility is the sum of the utility derived from the individual commodity that a consumer consumes. Simply, the total utility means it is the sum of the or aggregate of the utility that a consumer gets from consumption of every single commodity. So, for example, as I told you, 3 apples have been consumed, or 3 oranges have been consumed, or 3 bananas have been consumed. What would be the total utility? The utility derived from the apple, the utility derived from the orange, the second apple, utility derived from the third apple. Likewise, banana, likewise, any commodity. So, they aggregated together would give you mathematically total utility. Okay? So, the important concept in economic analysis is not total utility, rather it is marginal utility. Marginal utility gives rise to several analyses. When we go to theories of this consumer behavior, both the ordinal approach or cardinal approach, marginal utility, the concept marginal utility plays a vital role. What is marginal utility? When we say marginal utility, it implies that addition made to the total utility by consuming an additional unit of commodity. That's all. Suppose a consumer consumes 10 units of commodity, he receives 100 utils. When he consumes one more commodity, what happens? The total utility will change, will increase. The addition made to the total utility is called marginal utility, and it is got more value in economic analysis. So, when we compare total and marginal utility has more value in economic analysis, especially in the analysis of consumer behavior, theory of consumer behavior. And is there a total difference, relationship between total utility and marginal utility? Yes, there is a relationship. When total utility increases at a decreasing rate, marginal utility declines. Or when marginal utility declines, the total utility increases at a decreasing rate. Whenever the marginal utility becomes 0, becomes nothing, the total utility reaches its maximum, which means the further consumption does not increase the utility, total utility. Rather, it may reduce the utility, or it may leads to disutility, the so-called loss of utility. So, there is 3 stages. First stage, when consumer consumes continuously, the total utility increasing at a decreasing rate, marginal utility decreases. But when marginal utility becomes 0, the total utility reaches its maximum. If a consumer continues his consumption, what happens? The total utility declines, the marginal utility becomes negative. That can be very well explained by a graph. X-axis represents the units of commodity, y-axis represents the total and marginal utility. If you look at the graph, when total utility increases at a decreasing rate, the marginal utility steeply falling or steeply decreasing. When marginal utility becomes 0 or touches the x-axis, what happens? The total utility reaches its maximum. After total utility reaches its maximum, you see it clearly exhibits that the total utility declines, marginal utility becomes negative. Okay, so this is the relationship between marginal utility and total utility. Well, so having known the aspects of the utility, concept utility, we have to analyze both the cardinal approaches and the ordinal approaches, and the theories relevant to cardinal approach and the ordinal approach, especially the law of diminishing marginal utility, law of equimarginal utility, and theory of consumer surplus under cardinality approach. Whereas indifference curve analysis given by Hickson Allen under ordinality approach. So we have to analyze all these theories in the next presentation, and I hope it will be very useful to you. And for this opportunity, I must supposed to thank the college, the Department of Visual Communication for having given me this opportunity. We will meet you in the next presentation. Thank you.